Hey, I'm Cameron.
And I'm Jordan.
Let's crash mode. Alright, today we're going to go down a rabbit hole that I'm not sure anyone really wants to go down, but we are DC versus Marvel.
You should go like DC versus Marvel. Like fighting game. But yeah. So, it's going to be a little difficult to break down. What we're going to see, there actually is going to be a victor in the first place, but we're going to discuss like TV shows, cartoons, I want to say video games, but I think everybody loses there.
Yeah, there's not too many good video games on either side. But to be honest, I want to say like most people I don't think are like we're DC and we're Marvel. It's more of a I like certain heroes from both sides.
Yeah.
And it's more like, you know what, I like Iron Man, but I dislike, Doctor Strange, or I like Batman, but I don't like Superman, or something. It's more like people cross-pollinate. It's not like the Mac versus PC wars or the console wars as much.
At least nowadays.
But you thought it was more antagonistic back then?
For a little bit, which I found funny, because I knew some people who were, definitely more Marvel or more DC. And it's like, you're aware they've had crossovers, right? Like, seriously, they've had several crossovers. But, yeah. Okay, so where do we begin?
So I guess we should start with the comics. Like, basically, like, the roots, like, because I think they have different roots as companies.
They do.
Like, Marvel started off as it's Timely Comics, and it went through a couple names, and it became eventually Marvel in the 1960s.
Yep.
And it became like what we think of as Marvel when Stan Lee and Ditko and all those guys, they had a spurt of creativity in the 60s. They basically made all the popular characters, Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and stuff, the stuff that makes the foundation of Marvel today, and X-Men, all that stuff. And DC, that goes back to, pre-World War II stuff. And if you don't know DC, that gets its name from Detective Comics. It's most popular. It's the most popular comic, and I'm not sure it's the most popular comic right now, but it was.
Yeah.
And they had Superman, who's considered the biggest superhero in the world. They had Batman. They had all that stuff, and so they're older than Marvel. They're
long shot. Yeah.
They're the granddaddy of superheroes. Well, like Marvel had superheroes in its former incarnations before.
True. But DC was still older. But, I mean, they've had some inspirations from other comics, like, cult sort of stuff.
And now they're both entertainment conglomerates. Marvel's now part of an even bigger one in DC.
That threatens to rule the entire world.
I mean, Disney. Marvel's part of Disney. I'm kind of afraid what the mouse is going to do with Marvel, but
bad things, perhaps, but no worse than what they're already doing to themselves, though.
Yeah,
just saying.
Yeah, I guess you have to keep. I guess you have to keep in mind like the movies that are coming out right now. They were already in planning stages before Disney took control,
and we're still seeing. They decided to back down though. They didn't get involved.
Yeah, so we're still seeing like the vestiges of the Marvel Entertainment as it was, and it's probably going to continue on with the same people in charge and everything. So hopefully that goes well. But so are you a bigger fan of Marvel or DC Comics?
Tricky. It's very, very tricky. When I was younger, I probably would have said I lean more towards Marvel, and as I get older, maybe a little bit towards DC, but if I really had to say it, somewhere in the middle. I mean, I like some things from Marvel, some things from DC. I think they were both doing horrible jobs of crossovers over the years. But, I don't know, it's tricky. I feel like Marvel has lost some favor, for me at least, as time goes on, because when I was younger, I always thought Marvel as more of the mature person's comic. They dealt with more real world issues, less of the archetype stuff that DC has been so well known for. But DC is trying to strike back, it seems, over the years and be like, oh, we could do that too. So it's interesting. So I guess it depends on the day, really. Although I do say DC has gotten slight age is a relate. What about you?
They're very different tones, and they sometimes try to copy off each other.
Yeah.
I guess like a lot of people think of DC as more of the what you typically think of as a superhero. You know, Superman. They have a secret identity. They're, they're the sidekick, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas Marvel, people think of as more of a every man becomes a superhero, or it's a more realistic take of superhero. They're more flawed. They're more human, and so you'll get like an Iron Man where people will actually know who he is, even though in the original, I think the original excuse was he was his bodyguard or something.
Yeah.
And they made fun of that in the movie.
Yeah. So I think that is better though in case of like Iron Man though. So I mean, I think Marvel does have a slight edge in that, but like, what about preferences for you? I mean, overall.
I haven't read anything from the New 52 really.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has.
I'm very confused about the what's still in canon and what's not. It's very confusing. I feel like I need to read like a book. There needs to be a good Wikipedia page about what is and isn't. So I can get caught up, but I don't think I've seen one yet.
Yeah.
Or DC Comics, put something out for us. We shouldn't have to do this ourselves to figure out, because with the New 52, they combined the they combined the main DC universe with some other comic book universes they had acquired, like Wildstorm and different stuff.
Yeah.
And they formed a new one where different stuff is different. Like, I think Alan Scott, isn't he gay or
something like that? Yeah.
There's stuff like, there's different things like that. There's like minor differences. We still haven't seen some of the characters like Wally West and fan favorites like that, but.
Yeah, some new ones here and there, some different background. I think the reason we don't know that much about the New 52 is because they themselves don't know that much about the New 52. It's just kind of a mess right now. I mean, there's a lot of things that they were like, oh yeah, this is part of that new canon, and it'll be that old canon stuff, but you're like, ugh. But what is, what isn't? And of course you have characters like Batman where it's essentially the same more or less, because, they're like, if it's not broke, don't fix it, But there's a lot of other characters that are just like, what just happened? So, I mean, overall, though, did you have a preference?
I guess I prefer DC events over Marvel events. But I have a feeling that if I had to read a random Marvel comic versus a random DC comic, the Marvel comic would probably be better.
Yeah, fair enough.
Going back to the reboot, I think that's another thing with a big difference between DC and Marvel, the way they approach their universe. Whereas like DC is all about, they reboot the universe every now and then. You have the Infinite Earths thing, and they're not, the Crisis and all this stuff. They're not afraid to create a multiverse, destroy it, reboot the universe. Whereas Marvel, they've kept this kind of floating timeline going on since really the inception of what the 1960s Marvel.
Yeah, and I think overall it's about 10 to 15 years have passed.
Yeah, something like
it's
that.
Very loose, but yeah, something like that. Especially if you go on Spider-Man's age, because now he's an adult as opposed to a high schooler, and it's about 26 or something.
And there's benefits to Marvel's approaching that. You can say it's cool because it's the same universe. It's the guy who picked it up in 1961 or whatever, and so you're like, yeah, it's the same. You can cite that. I guess you could technically cite the behavior in 1961 for 2013, but it has its drawbacks in that you're constantly having to retcon things without rebooting, and sometimes you have to wonder about characters evolving, because if you evolve them too much, then the story's over. And that's a problem with we've talked about this with Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh my god, because it's they won't let that dude grow up. I mean, he's an adult now. It's been over 10 years, and they still won't let him grow up because they need another problem. He's one of the most drama-filled comic book characters there is. And it's like, no, we can't let him be an adult. And it's just kind of funny because, the whole responsibility thing.
Yeah, they can't let him have a happy marriage. They can't even let him get divorced. That might have been...
Yeah.
Like, why not, if they have, like, if you don't want them to get married, how about you have them, like, have a problem and get divorced? That'd be understandable.
Because, some people out there were against that. They were perfectly okay with them, Spider-Man gonna deal with the devil. Just, something to be said about that. But yeah, so it's like that right there is a childless approach. It was just like, you couldn't get any more fitting than that. So, while I get that, yeah, there's some disadvantages to that. There's some major disadvantages to doing what DC is doing, and we're seeing that now.
Yeah, because it gets very confusing, especially in the initial stages of a reboot. Especially if you don't go full out on the reboot. Where, like, they say some stuff is, like, still canon, like, oh, this stuff is canon, but then you're like, well, what about this other stuff? Like, you can't go back and, like, cherry pick stuff. I think they needed a clean reboot if they were going to actually do it, like, kind of like an Ultimate Universe, where it's like, no, don't worry about any of the previous comics. But they had to satisfy certain people that they're like, hey, but I bought this stuff. I want this stuff to still count. Well, it's like, like my view is like, if you reboot it, it's not making those comics disappear. Those still are, their own story. You can still enjoy them. Now, why don't you try a new story with new characters and let them be different people if you're not going to let them change?
True. Which is also, by the way, why I think that instead of doing like a hard reboot like they're doing, I think they should do what you were saying, which is like have an ultimate universe going on. They should just make that a different universe, not the same universe, only reboot it, because then that gets annoying.
So you think DC Comics should try their own version of Ultimate?
Yeah. I mean, they had a version that was similar to that with, the All-Star line, but that was kind of like short-lived.
Yeah, All-Star Superman was one of the more popular books.
For good reason.
All-Star Batman and Robin. Popular
for no wrong reasons. For goddamn Batman. Oh, God. But this is just awful. Okay, so I guess on my end, they're more or less tied with like someone taking the edge every now and then, as opposed to when I was younger and Marvel totally like outclassing DC in my opinion. And for you, it seems like they're more tied too.
Yeah, I think they're
overall.
I think they're tied overall. I mean, there's like I think it's more like the comics industry. There's still good stories, but it's just the decline of the comics industry. And the fact that it's been going on so long, there's only so many stories you can tell.
Yeah. Be a while before you start repeating them. It won't be too long, So fair enough. It just seems like, okay, so it kind of tied overall. Okay, so while we're still talking about the comic books within themselves, let's talk about teams. Which one does teams better?
Okay, so we got the Avengers and Justice League.
Okay, so we're going to go with the main ones first off?
Okay, well, there's so many teams.
Okay, so let's go with some of the main ones that people know really well.
Okay, well, the thing is, like, the teams, there's the original Justice Society of America, which was the first superhero team ever.
Yeah.
And that's the big one that kind of changed how people, I guess, like, created, like, a more unified superhero universe. It's inspired, like, what we're getting today. And then we had the Justice League, the membership changes a lot. And the Avengers, where the membership changes even more than the Justice League.
Oh, man.
We have the Teen Titans, which is the superhero group of the sidekicks.
Yeah, branching out.
Which I think their popularity was more of the 80s, 90s. And it's kind of gone by the wayside. And it had that short-lived cartoon. I mean, I guess it was short-lived because it had a few seasons under. But and they're also getting the comedy series.
Teen Titans Go. What is that nonsense?
I don't think you should be able to criticize it until you've seen it.
I call it bullshit. The hell I can't. Just saying, it's not gonna be like Young Justice. And I've seen the kind of humor they're gonna use. It's absolutely silly. And it's like, we've already had that in the original Teen Titans. We don't need to have it, like, to that ridiculous point. But that being said, okay, so yeah,
And then we had a bunch of
different teams, yeah.
So then you have a bunch of different offshoots from that. From the original Justice League, you have Justice League International, which try to get more of the obscure and get a more diverse group of people in the Justice League, and that was popular for a bit. You got Justice League of America, which Justice League is typically called Justice League of America.
Yeah,
JLA, but recently they've kind of separated the Justice League and Justice League of America, and I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, who does?
Are there any other DC teams you can think of?
Well, none that are really good. I mean, you do have Young Justice.
Yeah,
but that's really kind of like a rehashing of Teen Titans, only like younger. Because the Teen Titans are really the Titans now, but everyone still calls them the Teen Titans.
Well,
and
they became the version of Teen Titans, kind of, once the Titans grew up, and they just didn't.
Yeah, so they're like that.
And that was short-lived then.
And then there's like Batman's little group that he had for a while, like the Outsiders, but no one really gives a shit about them. So as far as main teams, no, not really.
Well, there's Batman Incorporated now, and also too,
Well,
but that's not really a team.
no.
It's more of an organization. Like it's not really. It's something. I guess it's an organization.
Shouldn't be though, but yeah. I don't know what they were thinking with that. Okay, so in terms of like who's this team better at?
Yeah, recently there's also been Justice League Dark, which they may be making into a movie with Guillermo. I can't pronounce Guillermo del Toro, who's doing Pacific Rim this summer, and who did Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy. And that has like Swamp Thing and like Constantine, if you know from the Keanu Reeves movie, except for he's completely different in the comics. Yeah, Constantine. He's not like Keanu Reeves at all, but still. Anyway, so there's Justice League Dark, which has, I think, also has Zatanna, which is always a plus for me.
Agreed. But I mean, besides Zatanna, are there any actual good members?
What?
I mean, besides her, are there any other good members?
A lot of people like Swamp Thing and Constantine. Like, I know you haven't read any of their comics.
No, I haven't had any
but
desire to.
They're really popular.
I don't know why, but okay, fair enough. I'm guessing there is a reason, but I don't know, I just feel like at least with the names, if you're gonna call like a Justice League Dark, you better be pretty damn cool, you know?
Well, I think it's gonna take on the dark side, underbelly, magical side of the DC universe.
Need more than the 10. Can't say the team.
Do you want to cover the Avengers?
I don't want to cover Avengers. Right?
Because there's quite a few Avengers, actually.
Because, okay, there's the Avengers, there's the Young Avengers, the New Avengers, the Secret Avengers.
The Dark Avengers.
Yes, the Dark Avengers, but we all try to forget that one.
What was the Dark Avengers originally called? Wait.
Thunderbolts?
Yeah, Thunderbolts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, there's another DC team, Suicide Squad.
Mm.
And that's the team of villains.
Yeah, like I kind of got forced into that situation of like being a team that goes out and actually tries to save people or do the missions that they don't want anyone else to do or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like they I think they wear they wear bomb collars, and I think that's what it depends on the comic.
Yeah,
or the incarnation of it. I think like they wear bomb collars and are forced to go on missions and. So
yeah,
there's I think that can be I wouldn't mind seeing like a TV show like that where like the where it's the villain, where it's about the villains they're forced to do stuff they don't want to.
Yeah, but you know that within itself is a very, very curious concept, because what if you had encountered a villain where they put them in that position and they decided that they would kill themselves and take out some people with them? What would you do? What could you do? Because you'd be giving them what they wanted, even if you killed them. Because maybe they just wanted to take out as many people as they could. There are some villains like that.
Well, they probably wouldn't pick them for like you obviously would put Joker on this.
Well, yeah, that would be a bad idea. That guy's insane. Oh my god.
Yeah, so
sure they would probably have better, like psych profiles that go on than that.
So yeah, so I think probably best. So Justice Society of America, that like the original the original version of the Justice Society of America, that's like old age stuff, and I don't really want to talk about that. But
You don't have to.
But it's like in that version, like Wonder Woman was the secretary or something too.
Like, way to be sexist.
I mean,
I get that, time is a factor in that, but it's like, goddamn, come on. You're talking about this woman that has been on the show, like, on many occasions to go toe-to-toe, be able to go toe-to-toe with Superman as your fucking secretary. What's wrong with you?
in the Justice League, they've been formed like the way they formed was like there's like 10 different probably origin stories for that.
Yeah.
I think the one they're going for the New 52 is the Justice League was formed after like a dark side invasion.
Yeah.
And so then like they just they ended up joining together to hold that off for a bit.
Yeah. You kind of stuck in all that nonsense. But I mean, we don't have to go like if we don't want to. We don't have to go into too much of the history.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking like, what do you prefer better? You prefer DC teams or Marvel teams? Like, which one do you think that does a better job? Whether you want to limit it to the main teams is up to you.
I guess more like Justice League versus Avengers. What would you rather see?
Honestly, Justice League.
Yeah.
I guess to explain that. To see it, I guess partially some of that is just also like other media, which of course is going to play a factor. But if we're going to try to limit the comic books themselves, still Justice League. And it's because they flow a lot better, I feel. I mean, they all have their problems, sure. I mean, they wouldn't have the story if they didn't have their problems among members. But I feel like you could see them, if you actually see a team. I mean, sometimes they have obnoxious ideals, but they're a team. They have problems, they go against each other, but at the end of the day, they still want to work together. And I guess, ultimately, the Avengers do the same. But there's so many more problems, there's so many people where you're just like, no, this does not work. They clash way too much to be a team. And there's just so many damn issues, which I think they use to great effect in the movie. But in the comics, oh God, I don't think it works.
Okay, I guess like your view is that the Justice League they basically hold the same values, all the members, like
more or less.
They may have personality differences, but they have the same value, the core value.
Yeah.
But the Avengers,
not so much.
Not so much. Like certain members may be more willing to kill than other members. Certain members maybe value certain things more than others. Like I guess like if you view Tony Stark, he's the type of guy who joined the Illuminati.
Yeah.
And work in the shadows, and he's willing to go that far. In Captain America, he may be like a dick at points, but he'll be a dick to your face.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's pretty much what you see is what you get. And I guess you're right with like Tony Stark. Yeah, he'll be a dick to your face too, but he'll be a dick behind your back. Like, do some really fucked up shit. Like, but I find it interesting you bring up Tony Stark because, he's one of the major players in the Avengers in most incarnations. And yet, with his fellow teammates, he's had some serious issues, i.e. with Captain America, the whole Civil War thing. And then, who could forget, since he is part of the Illuminati, he's one of the people that was really majorly behind Hawk getting sent to space, on the whole, Planet Hawk and all that stuff. So it's like, he clashes so greatly with his members. It's like, should people like that go together for a team?
I guess that's another problem with the
Right?
floating universe thing.
Yeah.
It's like with the floating timeline thing, where they have the shared history. It's like, they do some really horrible stuff to each other.
Yeah, they do.
But at the end of the day, they all come back together, and you're like, how can you forgive people? like with the DC universe, it doesn't feel like they ever go
That far.
where you're like, I don't understand how you could ever go back to working together, being a team. I don't understand how you can go from fighting each other on the streets of New York to coming together once again, just laughing over breakfast at the Avengers Tower mansion or whatever, and
Yeah, you can see how it goes down. Like, you tried to kill me that one time. You remember? Yeah, it was kind of like that time you tried to kill me. Yeah, we're cool now. It's like, no, not really. I mean, some of this stuff is like big universe-changing stuff. Again, those two major examples right there. I mean, like with Civil War, there was some definite backlash, and I think they've worked together since, right? Like Captain America.
yeah, they've gotten back.
And it's like, really? After all that? And same, I actually I don't know about Hawk. Like, has he worked with anybody really since getting back, or what is the deal with that?
I don't remember.
And
I mean, he's worked with people.
yeah, and
But he's got his own Hulk universe now with Red Hulk and She-Hulk.
all that nonsense. And see, the thing about Hawk is, and you brought it
Red
up
She-Hulk
numerous
too.
times. Yeah. Oh my, wait. What? That's horrible. This is just horrible. But yeah, it's like he's done his fair share of stuff too. Like even when the Illuminati sent him off into space and all that, when he came back, as you pointed out, he made so many people fight each other, and a lot of people like die.
Yeah, well, he was going to destroy New York.
Yeah.
Remember before the Sentry stopped him?
Yeah.
He was going to destroy New York.
Yeah, you're heroes, ladies and gentlemen. You're heroes. Yeah, it's pretty busted. Like Marvel, like granted, you're gonna have some like really messed up things in DC universe too. The Marvel heroes, especially their team ones, they seem more like villains sometimes.
Well, I think that's the problem. Like the DC universe, they expect it to be fantastical. In the Marvel, they present more of a realistic veneer, and so then you expect more realistic consequences.
Yeah.
And so, like DC, whereas in DC you can be more forgiving because they have that more fantastical, mythological thing going on. In Marvel, it's kind of like, yeah, well, I kind of expected that guy to go to jail.
And oh my god, all stuff with Norman Osborn is just horrible. Like, how does that work?
Like Hulk did go to jail for after that event, but certain events got him out of it eventually.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. But anyway,
Okay, so like, I mean, I feel like overall DC does a better job with teams, or at least making them more believable as a team. Like, I mean, I think with Marvel, you have a more realistic approach without the realistic consequences, so it makes sense that the teams don't work. But in terms of actually making them work, yeah, I think DC does a much better job. With the main ones and with the side ones, I don't know. It's kind of hit or miss with both sides.
well, there's some interesting. See, I feel like one thing they do have going for it in Marvel is that the Avengers themselves actually have specific villains to the Avengers. Like there's King the Conqueror, there's Ultron, that kind of thing, where there's specific villains like that fight against the Avengers. Where I feel like Justice League, there's no specific villain.
Yeah.
For the Justice League.
More like everybody, like some members villains.
Yeah, or some world destroying cataclysmic event or something like Anti-Monitor or something like.
Yeah.
But like, so yeah, that's one thing Avengers have going for them. And I really like the Avengers movie. I really like it.
But that's a different thing though.
It's a different thing from the comic.
Yeah, let's see your point. It was really good. They actually took that like struggle and made it say something. Made them actually have to work together in a very, very interesting way. They were playing off each other, but again, it's different from the comics, which don't always do that. And even when they're like circulating as many members as they do, it's like a lot of members don't get along, or it's just like, what are you all doing working together? Like, some of the weirdest things. And like, I just don't feel like Wolverine or Spider-Man should ever be on an Avengers team. I mean, hell, Wolverine has enough problems being an X-Men working there. Yeah.
I don't like Spider-Man on the Avengers team. It doesn't feel right.
Because he's Spider-Man.
It kind of feels like, I don't mind him teaming up every now and then.
But that's just it, every now and then,
Yeah, I kind of like when he teams up every now and then, and he's working with them, he's making snide comments, that kind of stuff.
But he's still doing his own thing.
Yeah, but when he's joining the Avengers, it just feels out of place, and he's like cosmic events and stuff.
Yeah, because like, dude, you're part of a team now. It's weird. But I mean, he's been part of the Avengers like roster on numerous occasions. And
Wolverine's become a mainstay of late.
Which is just annoying. Yeah, you're right. Yes, and I don't mind Luke Cage though so much.
Yeah, I don't mind Luke Cage. I feel like he can fit in.
He's like probably just. I think that's just his character in general. He's like about as least as offensive as you can get. Like he's not as much of a dick as like everybody else on that team.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer like for the Justice League. I don't know about you, but I don't like when they have big rosters for these teams.
It doesn't work so well. No, I agree because like they don't have time to focus on the stuff that you care about because they're so worried about like these small stories. Like who fuck cares?
Yeah, I prefer like when Justice League they have like a core 7 or something around that number. I don't mind them having like a part time or everything in it, time every now and then with that core 7. But like I prefer, I want Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and I can be flexible on the others, I guess.
Stuff Flash. It has to be Flash.
Yeah, Flash, fair with Flash. So Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, Flash,
Green
and
Lantern.
Green Lantern, and the other
Whoever
two.
else.
And the other two I can be flexible on.
But yeah, who cares about them?
And the other two, if it's like Hawkgirl or like Martian Manhunter or Aquaman, I know you don't like Aquaman.
No, I don't.
And Cyborg doesn't feel like he belongs.
No, that's cool. I think that's just part of, seeing Teen Titans. Like, that is most people's exposure to Cyborg. So seeing him as part of the Justice League is just weird. And he's also, like, he said in the comics, he's a member of the Titans. And it's like, for such a long time, that being a member of Justice League just seems odd.
Well, in the reboot, he was never a member of the Titans.
I mean, like, in general, though.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, okay, he's not. But, like, before. So I think in the popular conscious, they're gonna be like, wait, what? But now, yeah, I guess they're trying to push that whole, it's Justice League. It does feel weird.
It does. It really does. I mean, maybe I'll get used to it. Maybe. If they keep it up. If they keep it up for 5 years, I'll get used to it. But I'm not sure if they'll keep it up that long.
Who knows with them?
I think it was more like, hey, we needed a black guy, and they changed, and they didn't want to put Jon Stewart as the Green Lantern.
Yeah, they are so resistant to that.
I mean,
And you know why they're resistant to that, and I admit, that has nothing to do with them being black, it's just them being obnoxious.
well, it goes back to, this is a big reason. Big problem with DC Comics. They're going back to the original version. Well, not, in some cases, not the original.
But usually, like, the more popular Earth 2. Oh, sorry, Earth 1.
They're going back to, like, Hal Jordan and,
But yeah, see, that's the original, like,
well, the
Earth
original,
1.
Well, the original Green Lantern was Alan Scott.
Yeah. I'm talking about Earth 1, not Earth 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Because Earth 1, it was Alan Scott for Green Lantern and Jay Garrick for Flash. But Earth 1, it was Barry Allen for the Flash, inspired by Jay Garrick. And the Green Lantern that most people are familiar with of Earth 1 would be Al Jordan.
Okay. Well, the thing is,
So
like,
yeah, they're going back.
a big thing, like, I think like every kid growing up, the Green Lantern they knew was Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
And for some of the people in the 90s, their Green Lantern growing up before the Justice League show was Kyle Rayner.
Which is just weird.
Yeah, I can't imagine it because I didn't read those comics.
Yeah.
But he's apparently popular. I don't know anything about that, but
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of, I don't know, like, we grew up on the Justice League show, so our Green Lantern we know best is Jon Stewart. And our Flash that we know best is Wally West. And I feel like both of those cases, they do a pretty good job. And yet, they just try to push a lot of people away because they're like, oh no, everyone likes these classics. It's like, do you actually know what's going on out there?
I think it's more the editors and the writers. Those are the ones they grew up with.
That's what okay.
And so they're trying to go back to what they liked. And I think also, you have to keep in mind, our generation isn't still buying comic books. It's the generation before us. It's the guys in their 40s and 30s buying comic books.
But I really do wonder how many of them do prefer the older ones.
Not that many people in their 20s aren't.
That's
buying
true.
comics.
It's dying with that.
And so they don't care if we like Jon Stewart.
Which is unfortunate.
Because
Because Hal Jordan is just boring.
he is.
Yeah. So is Barry Allen, really.
He has his moments. Hal Jordan has his moments.
Yeah, but
But he's very much a Mary Sue character.
kind of just bullied him with each passing generation. I mean, like, I feel like over the years they're trying to make him more funny. But one thing I couldn't stand, and I feel like it actually gave his character depth, is the whole Parallax thing.
I thought that was just a cluster.
Yeah, it was a clusterfuck at the end of the day, but I mean, even though it was like really messed up all the things that he did, it's like, it was him doing it before they were like, oh no, it was Parallax. It's like, no, you can't claim that. They messed up when they tried to retcon that.
Well, I felt
he still killed people along the way.
Well, I felt that should have been more of a. They should have represented him as more psychologically weak before then, because then they just show him just like break. Well, I guess you could do.
Well, it was also his hometown, man. Like, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I feel like there should have been some kind of foreshadowing. You know, kind of like a. You know, like something like where the Killing Joke, where like Joker's goal is like to show that any person
Yeah.
can break.
All it takes is one bad day.
All it takes is one bad day. And I feel like they should have had some kind of foreshadowing, like, all it takes is one bad day. And then they could do it, and I might be able to buy it.
Okay, yeah, that would have been good storytelling. But, okay, fine. Even though they did that part poorly, they just kept on making it worse. It's like, no, you don't get to say, oh, no, it was an evil spirit possessing a ring.
And the other thing was, it wasn't just like him getting angry and just killing somebody that's right next to him. That was like a sustained, concerted effort.
Yeah,
That's a lot different than just having like one bad choice. That's like a series of bad choices where you have lots of time to think about what you just did. That takes a big
he kind of immediately went off into space. Oh, but then he did stay a villain once he already crossed that line.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, even though they made a lot of those mistakes, they did not have to make it worse by saying he was possessed. And besides,
okay,
I will say one more thing about that.
Let's move.
What is the one more thing? And it's like, even when they tried to retcon it, they did a poor job. Because he still killed a lot of people before he got to the ring, and Parallax could have entered his ring. You see that flaw there?
I don't remember when they say Parallax entered the ring, so I can't argue about that.
I heard it was when he absorbed the power into the battery.
I don't remember, so I can't argue. So let's move on.
But I'm just saying, that's what I was going with. It's like, really? Really? Y'all fucked up. But
we don't know. Okay, anyway, moving on.
Pretty sure.
We don't know.
You can look it up. But,
okay. So let's move on from the teams. Who do you think are villains? Best villains? DC or Marvel? Okay, so let's see who the villains are.
Wait,
What?
No. I think we kind of beat the teams to the point, like, DC's pretty much better. Okay. Oh my god, man. This one's actually a tough one, because I don't feel like either of them put a lot of efforts into their villains. You know what I mean?
Well,
I don't know.
With DC, we have Lex Luthor, the Joker, Darkseid. You know, you have all Batman's classic villains. I feel like Batman's picking up a lot of the load.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, like her main villains, like the gods, Ares, that kind of thing. Cheetah, whatever. Flash, you have Reverse Flash.
Yeah, Dr. Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
The
Reverse Flash,
weather guy. What's his name?
Captain Cold. Yeah, he has the dumbest rogues. I mean, I think, like, the Reverse Flash, aka Dr. Zoom, is probably, like, his most interesting villain. But, cause he has, like, there's Captain Cold, and then there's Weather Wizard. I think, is Weather Wizard a Superman one now? Anyway.
Yeah, he kind of goes in between stuff, but I think he's more of a Flash guy.
Yeah.
But,
and then the Joker guy, not like the Joker, but he's a jester sort of guy.
Okay, Trickster. And then there's a bunch of, like, you know, you have Deathstroke for the Titans. They have their own crop of villains, like Trigog and all that stuff. You know, Batman definitely has the best villains. I don't think there's an argument there.
No, there really isn't. They put effort into that, because he's so defined by his villains.
Superman, Brainiac, Zod. Those are probably the Lex Luthor. Those are the three bigs.
Sinestro.
It's Sinestro, the Yellow Corps.
The Guardians.
They are kind of antagonists.
Yes, they are. God, they're horrible.
I think Blackest Night was one of the coolest events.
Really trippy to think about, though, you know? But, yeah. Was there any other major ones? Because I feel like Batman and Superman probably are the more well-known ones.
Yeah, Batman and Superman definitely the more well-known. There's the whole Apocalypse stuff, which is cool. Not really sure who else we got there. I feel Mongol kind of sucks.
Yeah, he really does.
He's like a weak-ass Darkseid, but
yeah, that's exactly what it is. He is the poor man's Darkseid. Let's see. Anybody else? Anybody? Yeah, I don't know, actually.
I feel like Batman carries the load for DC.
He kind of does, yeah. And, let's see, how about, I think, okay.
Because I can name like 10 Batman villains.
Yeah, as opposed to the rest of them. So I think it was pretty much like, oh, Marvel versus the Batman villains, right? Because
I guess Cadmus is kind of a villain, like, or the different versions of the government evil. I can name some more Superman villains too, like oh my god, I can't. Bizarro.
Okay.
The Kryptonite guy. Oh my god, I can't think of anything today.
Metallic.
There's also one.
What?
Metallo. It's
Metallo. Yeah, it's Metallo. I was about to say Metallica, and I was like, wait, no, that's the band.
That'd be an awesome Superman comic. Superman vs. Metallica.
Oh god, something like made during the 80s or something.
We will conquer the world using our music. And
then Batman comes in, he's like, rock and roll, kill my parents. Oh yeah, because that one line, like, punk is definitely, but they're straight metal though, they're not punk. Like Metallica. But they're like classic metal. But yeah, I can see that. Oh my god, Kryptonite guitars! Yeah.
But there actually is a villain made out of completely Kryptonite, I think.
Besides, because I guess Metallo.
Besides Metallo. There's a lot of Kryptonite stories, but...
Yeah. Because, they have to put a cap on Superman somehow,
So let's talk about the Marvel villains. Who do you think will we have...
Okay, I think... Oh, wait, what were you going to say?
No, you go.
Alright, because, I don't know what we'll end up saying by the end of this, but I can tell you right now, some of them do stick out. I mean, you have people like Magneto, Apocalypse, Venom, Carnage, Doctor Doom, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin,
Dr.
Octopus, yeah.
AKA the Superior Spider-Man.
Oh, God, what? Galacticus.
Galactus.
Why did I say Galacticus?
He's like Galacticus.
Yeah, I did.
Thanos.
Yeah.
We mentioned the Avengers villains, King the Conqueror.
And Ultron. Let's see.
Loki.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Loki.
Yeah.
The thing is, I feel like Batman's villains just beat everyone else's villains.
They're kind of trumpets, so that's what we're really doing, man.
Yeah, because it's like, you got Poison Ivy, you got the Joker, who's like people would argue is the greatest villain of all time.
I don't know about all that, but he's definitely up there.
Alright.
But yeah, I hear you.
You got Victor Freeze.
True. Bane.
Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, Ra's al Ghul, yeah, he's pretty popular.
Two-Face.
Yeah.
You got all those people.
Yeah, but even lesser known ones like Hush and stuff like that.
Yeah, Black Mask. I mean, like
Black Mask, Black Glove.
You just play through the Arkham games. You can see how many villains.
Oh my god, they did such a brilliant job on that. And by the time you got to the second one, it's just fucking ridiculous. They pretty much had every villain in there, and they actually did a decent interpretation of Penguin. Like, I mean, that Penguin in there, that was a guy that most people do not want to fuck with. You know.
And see, the thing
I
about
think that's good.
The thing about the Batman villains is like, even people that don't pay attention to comic books and superheroes, they know them, and they become iconic. So I think like just by default, if you include Batman villains, then I think they trump anybody else's. But I think if you kind of ignore the Batman villains, then
Marvel flat out kicks their ass pretty hardcore.
Because like the ones outside of that, like Lex Luthor and Darkseid, everyone else is kind of
But I mean, with Marvel, it's like they have some serious ones there. I mean, some serious power. It's like you have whereas they have just like Batman on the air, you have a few people being able to come from Marvel. Like, I mean, you have a lot of these decent villains from X-Men, a lot of decent villains from Spider-Man. Stuff like that, and some other comics. So,
but I think the best villains, if you had to pick the villains, most iconic villains from Marvel, like they would all belong to Spider-Man, really. I guess for the most part.
From X-Men.
And Doctor Doom's the only Fantastic Four one, I would say.
But he crosses over to so many.
Well, I guess Galactus is too, because he's a Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
But I don't think that many people know him.
No.
Unless you watch the sequel to Fantastic Four, but...
That actually wasn't as bad as I was expecting.
It's still...
It was mediocre.
It was weak sauce, their version of Galactus. Oh, it's a storm. And then Green Lantern pulled that shit with Parallax, and come on.
Yeah. So, okay, well, overall, can you say? I mean, because can you really say that DC, I mean, because we haven't said anything yet.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, if we do say something, can you really say DC has better villains and Batman is the one carrying their asses? But then again, he is part of the DC.
I mean, if you include Batman, I'd say DC has the better villains.
It's tough.
I mean, like, I'm not saying it's, like, so dominant that it, like, kicks Marvel's ass, but I just, like, I feel like everyone knows the DC villains. Like, people, like, if I make a joke about Lex Luthor, people are gonna know. Like, I feel like there's, like, if I make a joke about Galactus, no one... but I mean, I think, like, there's also a lot of people, they wouldn't know Green Goblin.
Which is a shame, because Green Goblin's insane. But yeah, I mean, they might know a little better after, you know, the full Spider-Man trilogy there.
But like, I feel like do you feel like if you talk to the average person about Green Goblin, they would know?
Nope.
Like, I mean, like, outside comics, but yeah, I just think they're more iconic. I think they're very interesting and diverse group. Marvel villains. Who are your favorite Marvel villains?
I'd definitely say Magneto, Apocalypse, Venom. They'd be some of my top ones.
But see, the thing about Apocalypse, I like more the idea of Apocalypse than what he does than the actual villain himself.
Because he kind of fucks up in what he does, so it's more like the concept of Apocalypse.
It's more like the concept of Age of Apocalypse that I like than the actual villain.
Fair enough. But, let's see, yeah. So besides, it's like, I mean, I don't know, I like some of the stuff he did, but not like a whole lot, because he messes up a lot. But I like compared to the other ones, I would say like Magneto and Apocalypse. Definitely Venom, the Eddie Brock Venom. Let me clarify, because they keep on pushing all these other different Venoms there. But I would just say the other ones I know them, I know their stories, but a lot of them I don't care about. So I don't know. I would say like you do know DC's more, but like, I feel like Batman shouldn't have to carry the weight for like pretty much all of them. So, I mean, I would say it's pretty close, but Marvel probably has better quality on the whole. But as far as highest quality, DC, if not just because of those Batman villains. I feel like the average Marvel villain would trump the average DC, but...
Doesn't Marvel have Stiltman? Huh? Doesn't Marvel have Stiltman, Jordan? I'm just listening.
And I mean, I was gonna say in DC had a Plastic Man, so your point. But I guess he's not really a villain so much, but he was a criminal first. But okay, they both have weak points. But I mean, overall, I feel like they do have like the average villain has higher quality, but I think just maybe because some of the Batman villains they have higher quality. And I mean, I wanted to talk about that real quick. I feel like DC might have more well-known villains because most of their villains are kind of stereotypical, really.
So you think they're more one note?
A good portion. That's why, like, some of the ones. Well, no. I mean, one note in the sense that they only kind of do one thing, but not one note and they gonna go away. I mean, like with some of the ones like Lex Luthor and Darkseid and like that, they stick around. Yeah. I think it's because they're so like evil.
But what I was saying.
The other one notes is like the ones that go away.
Well, no, what I was saying about one note. I mean, it's like you're saying they have like a only one personality trait, and they just keep re-emphasizing that they don't actually have like a character behind that.
Yeah, and so you see that trait so much, but they have the character's name behind it, so it's easy to identify with. Well, Marvel, I feel like it's a little less concrete with their average villain. You know, like, and the ones that are well known, it's just because of the people. I mean, because with X-Men and Spider-Man, they're just like really well known Marvel properties. And then in terms of like, I think like the reason why the Batman villains, like a good portion of them, are so interesting because while some of them are straight up villains, some of them are villains with a purpose, and damn near all of them are villains because but Batman led them there. And I think that is an interesting thing.
Well, I think like Batman's villains are interesting just because of their psychological problems.
Yeah.
It's more like dealing with the craziness, and so you don't really mind that, like, hey, they might not have like this flawed, complicated backstory, but like what they're doing now is entertaining and interesting.
Yes, they're fucking crazy. And like I think with the Marvel, the reasons why like some of the, I mean there's a lot of them, but like I think a lot of comic book villains don't stand out. And with DC, I think it's more the one note thing. And I think for Marvel, and you're probably gonna laugh at this, I think some of their villains, while like some of them don't stand out because of the same reason DC villains don't, I think some of them don't stand out because like the way characters are in the Marvel universe, they act more like villains than heroes anyway. So how the fuck could you tell? Like, I mean, seriously, like some of them, it's like they go back and forth too. That's the thing. Like heroes and villains go back and forth in that universe, and so many of the villains have become heroes at some point. It's like they're not doing that much to stand out sometimes.
But yeah, but I think like you sometimes find yourself sympathizing with like someone like Magneto, but I don't think
Sometimes.
but I don't think I've ever really sympathized for a DC villain that much.
No, because they're so big on archetypes with their heroes, with their villains, so you appreciate it that much more when you find like a hero or a villain that isn't stereotypical. Because most of their heroes, as flawed as they are, right? Even if they're not heroic in some situations, that is what they're, going for, though. They're going for the heroics. And the villains, they're pretty much just villains. They're kind of evil to be evil, because you need something evil for the good to fight.
But I did like the interpretation of Lex Luthor from All-Star Superman, where he's like, you're the enemy for humankind because, you have some unobtainable thing, you do everything for humanity, and you're holding us back, so you're the enemy. And I kind of like that his whole spiel there, where it's more like he's like the everyman. He's trying to fight for the everyman,
which is ironic too.
From his perception, and
yeah,
and I like that kind of like egotistical, or kind of sympathetic.
It's kind
of thing where like you can see it from his point of view. You don't agree with it, but you see his point of view, and I like that interpretation.
Yeah.
So I think you can take a spin on that.
You can if you try at it. It's just like most people don't. And with that interpretation, you gotta love the brilliance, the irony in that, because like Lex Luthor, really, you're the everyman, because everyone has like $1 billion. Yeah.
And another thing about the DC archetypes, like you can use that to a tremendous advantage, where like you have a character like the Joker, where you don't want his backstory, because you want him to stand for chaos, and when you don't have a backstory, it allows you to do something so much greater.
Yeah, because you don't know what happened to him, you just know what he's doing now, and what he's doing now is just
he stands for chaos, and you kind of want that for certain. You want some doses of that in certain stories, but like I guess you want a mix of Marvel and DC.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
It's like, and I think it is hard to say which one has a better villain, but you can make arguments on both sides. But at the end of the day, while I don't think a lot of heroes are really that good, I feel like in comic books there's way more of an effort to make a decent, well-rounded superhero as opposed to a decent, well-rounded villain. Because, most of the times people are just viewing the villains as, that problem that the hero has to overcome, has to defeat.
Do you want to get into the heroes? Or?
Yeah, we can discuss them. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say, Marvel has more interesting heroes. Shit.
So you prefer Marvel heroes?
I prefer Marvel heroes.
Okay.
It's just like, in terms of what actually makes a hero, I think DC might have the upper hand there, even though they're incredibly flawed and some of them are pretty villainous in their own right. But I'd definitely say I prefer Marvel.
Okay. My thing is, like, a lot of times with Marvel, you get kind of like, not just a superhero story, you're kind of getting a Peter Parker relationship drama. You're getting a lot of these like side story stuff, and that stuff's enjoyable sometimes. But sometimes you just want to go to Speedy's story just to watch some superheroes beat up some bad guys. And I think DC just does that better. You want to see Batman kick some guy's ass and say the Batman. And okay, who are your favorite Marvel villains? Who are your favorite DC villains? I mean DC heroes. We're talking about heroes. So let's you can say the general. You can say this generally, but can you actually back this up with actual specifics?
I'm talking about like in general overall.
Yes. Who are your favorite?
Okay.
Marvel
as far as Marvel, let's see.
Okay. Spider-Man?
Actually, no.
You don't like Spider-Man?
I like Spider-Man's stories. I enjoy Spider-Man's wit. Like Spider-Man himself, I mean, I enjoy reading about Spider-Man, but Spider-Man is an ass. I don't like him. He's a dick.
Okay, I'm not talking about what you like, but like your favorite Spider-Man character. I mean, like your favorite Marvel character. Would you consider him a favorite character?
He's one of my favorites in the Marvel lineup, yes.
Okay.
I'd much rather read about his stories than someone else's, but I don't like him as a person. I stand by it. It makes sense, trust me. And I know you're gonna hate it, but I still enjoy a good Wolverine story here and there. Not so much what they're doing right now, because they're trying to make a hero out of him, and that is not Wolverine. He's an anti-hero. That was the whole point to his existence. That's why he got famous. Let's see.
Do you like the X-Men and like X-Men comic in
X-Men's, yeah.
Oh, we can talk about X-Men in teams. That's a big one we forgot.
Yeah. Did we?
It's a big team.
Really?
That's a big team.
Yeah, it's a big team, but
we forgot to talk about when we're comparing. Because I think the X-Men for a while were more important than the Avengers.
Yeah. I think they're better coordinated than the Avengers, and they make a lot more sense, even though there was like constantly rotating. They're united by the whole, hey, we're mutants.
But
shooting for a similar ideal, but I'd say like Spider-Man, the X-Men, like various members from there. Like I do like some of Wolverine's stories. I like Cyclops' powers. Maybe Nightcrawler and stuff like that. Gambit to a lesser extent. Things like that. And then to Spider-Man, Black Cat. Like, I don't really care about the Hulk. I don't.
Neither do I.
Iron Man. Or Captain America, really.
I like the Iron Man movies, but I don't like... it's more like I like Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man.
What he really is Robert Downey Jr. saying he's Tony Stark. That's really what it
Robert
is.
Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. That's who I like.
Yeah. He's like, no. Iron Man isn't Tony Stark. He's Robert Downey Jr. I feel like
I like Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man.
Yeah,
that's who
and I feel like that says
one of my favorite
more
characters.
something about like his acting than the actual character. I guess it makes a difference. So it shows you that you could make an interesting Iron Man if you chose to. But is they decided to do? No, not so much. So I guess mostly Spider-Man and X-Men heroes. But I mean, like overall, I do think they're interesting and more compelling than DC. But in terms of like DC, I could say a few. I mean, like
we forgot to talk about Fantastic Four, which is a big team.
No one cares about Fantastic Four. Fuck those movies.
We
did skip some major teams.
I'm gonna stop because if we keep bringing stuff up, we're gonna be here all day.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the X-Men and Fantastic Four and stuff like that.
Okay, I'm still interrupting you. Okay, keep going.
We do have those, but yeah. Okay, so I could probably think of more DC or about even like in terms of like favorites, but that's just because, you know, if I have a favorite, it's because they're a pretty interesting character. And yeah, Venom isn't a hero; he's a villain, so I can't count that. But okay, so what about DC then? Flash is my all-time favorite DC character, and noticeably Wally West. Batman, although like Spider-Man, I don't like him. I like reading his stories. I like some bits of his personality, but him as a whole, well, not so much. But yeah, so the Flash, Batman, Green Lantern, notably the Jon Stewart version, and then Flash, notably the Wally West. Let's see, who else?
Nightwing.
Yes, Nightwing.
You used to be a big Nightwing guy.
Yeah, he used to be cool way back in the day, because, you know, like, I mean, we grew up on Batman animated series, and before that, like when we were like young, we saw like old episodes of the live action Batman show, so we'd only seen Robin. And even though it had been like 10 years since Nightwing had been debuted, first time seeing him, it's like, oh, well, this is a much cooler version of Robin. It's like, what happened to make him that way? And then it's like in that animated series, it was the whole Batman took his girl. But yeah, that was busted. So let's see, The Flash, Green Lantern, Batman, Nightwing.
I like Wonder Woman.
I was about to say that. Oh man. Wonder Woman, Hawkgirl. Although if I have to be specific, Hawkgirl from the Justice League, so maybe not so much of comics because they have that whole she's obnoxiously attached to Hawkman thing going on in the comics.
I like Big Bertha.
Yeah, if you can get around the name, she's actually pretty awesome.
Who else?
Zatanna.
I really like Zatanna.
She's cool people.
I like Tim Drake.
Alright. Icon.
I
mean, he's part of DC now.
like Static Shock, the character. I didn't like the show.
Yeah. And now Static Shock is also part of DC, so yeah. And the show was too preachy is what that was.
It was very, message of the week.
Yeah.
It could have been so much better.
It could have been. And when they stopped focusing on that shit, it actually was alright.
I like the one episode where the guy's son was like using the gas balls to get different powers, and then at the end he turns to stone. And
yeah, and they bring up that guy in like Batman Beyond, I think actually. Right?
Maybe I don't remember.
Yeah, because there's the powers. That guy.
Oh.
He's later in Batman Beyond.
Okay, so it's his descendant, his son. Yeah.
Something like, I don't know.
I forgot.
They were connected because at that time we were wondering what the DC characters were doing with that. We had no idea that like Static Shock was actually a comic book character and that it was Milestone, and Milestone was owned by DC. So we were like, what the fuck is all the DC stuff in there and all that. But yeah, Static Shock as a character is cool. I want to like Rocket, but I don't know. Okay, I like the Rocket in a comic. You don't see enough of her in Young Justice to really make an informed decision. See, anyone else? Because you already said Wonder Woman, so I like her too.
So heroes, I wouldn't necessarily one has better heroes than the other. It's more like what your preference for the day is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because like I feel like that's a lot for like DC. Like
and Quicksilver, yeah. Huh?
Yeah, quickly for Marvel.
For Marvel, yeah. Huh?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is like, what are you into right now for the moment? And they both have their good stories and bad stories. And so like a lot of people want to turn this into like, I'm a Mac and I'm CPC.
It's really not because it's.
Yeah, I mean it really isn't. It's like you can enjoy both.
Yeah, and I think part of it just because they in essence grew up together. They're like the two most influential comic book publishers there is.
Yeah, I think
they influence what the market is.
Is a few years ago they owned like something like 80% of the market. I mean you have like yes other comics. The third big one, the biggest independent would be Image, which has stuff like Invincible and other stuff, but like, and a bunch of those weird 90s comics that we didn't get into at all, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think you should be like, oh, I only read Marvel because I think it's just stupid.
No, it doesn't work that way. I mean, there's good stories in both and bad stories in both too. And honestly, even though they're in different universes, the styles are honestly the same. I mean, they've borrowed from each other so many times to the point where some of their teams are based on a team and another one, or some of their heroes are based on other heroes, or villains are based on other villains. And they know it's part of the game. Hell, sometimes they encourage it. And, I mean, they get along well enough that they've had crossovers, huh?
I mean,
they switch writers, too.
I mean, like, writers have, like, defected from DC to Marvel and from Marvel to DC.
So that's also a big part of it. So it's like, how can you go and say that you really do only read one when there are, like, writers that would have written something from there and then for the other company, and they might have been writers whose stories you liked. So it's like, how can you say that if you didn't really try? It's like, they're the same writers. I mean, they might have different limitations set on them, like, from the editors, but you never know.
Another big thing, like, with comics, though, is, like, a lot of people, they're not really into, like, the characters. They'll read a certain writer. which kind of makes sense.
Weird. I mean, it makes sense. It does.
Which makes sense. They have a certain style, and you're getting a certain kind of quality.
You do.
You expect. So, like, a lot of people may like Jeff Johns and stuff like that. Or, but, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer story, but yeah.
Do you want to move on?
Yes. So we talked about major things in comics. Okay, I'm gonna say we'll move on to like which one has like the better shows, and then I guess the better movies. And before we do that, we're gonna touch on video games real quick. And don't worry, this is gonna be real short. They suck. Most of them suck for both. It's just that's it. There's a few here and there. That's all there is really to say about that. And I feel like that is a symptom just of comic books. And like video games. I mean, comic books and movies and all this different stuff becoming video games. Most time people don't care and they're just looking for a cheap cash in. If you're lucky, you'll come up with something decent.
There's some decent fighting games from both.
That is true.
There's probably some decent old 80s, 90s games that no one plays anymore. But there's nothing that's like stands out as great or game changing, I don't think. And probably the highest quality one was Batman, right? Arkham.
Yeah. I mean, the Arkham series it's amazing. So they did a pretty good job of that. So if you had to go on like overall, I mean, DC might just win because of that, because in all other eras, they're pretty decent. Unless you count the X-Men Legends series, but then again, they were kind of like, eh.
They were meh.
Yeah.
And that recent X-Men RPG got horrible reviews. Can you think of a Marvel game that's kind of like Arkham?
No. I don't think they've gotten to that point yet.
I don't see why that's hard to make something like Batman Arkham, like any of the Arkham games.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think most of the time, like, people really just, they haven't thought about it, haven't tried. But now that it's out there, you think you'd see more games like that.
I was reading about the recent Superman, the old Superman Returns game, and I had an interesting idea. So, because, like, Superman, he can't be beat up by like normal villains and stuff. And so like what they had was like a health bar for the city. So I found that interesting. That's an interesting concept to me.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So I kind of imagine like someone making a video game where you're like a superhero. It's kind of like SimCity or whatever. And you're trying to keep crime down. You can like read the stats, and you're trying to keep that down and do different stuff. But that'd be interesting.
Hey, you know what? I won't say there's a game that's on par with Arkham, but I will say this. Some of the Spider-Man games have actually been pretty interesting for Marvel.
Oh yeah,
they've been building a nose, so.
Oh yeah, people really love the Spider-Man 2 one. People like
that. Was groundbreaking. Yes.
The open world one, that was good.
Yeah, and I enjoyed Alternate Spider-Man, the game. That was pretty damn good. So was Web of Shadows. The story there is really weird, but it's pretty good. Again, none of them on Arkham City, but they had this whole open world view, and you got a good sense of Spider-Man's powers in all of them. And I think Spider-Man 2 really did set the bar for that, because I think it really is like the same developers, and they've been influenced by that style. So anytime you see that open world style, that is probably like largely because of that.
There's also a big problem with Marvel's. They have a lot of horrible movie tie-in games.
Yeah.
They're just awful. The graphics are awful. The cutscenes are blocky. They're glitchy. They have bad controls, that kind of thing.
Spider-Man 2 is probably the only decent one. And I don't know about the later Spider-Man games, but the three that we talked about, they're pretty good. Like, I mean, there's like Shattered Dimensions, stuff like that. I heard that's supposed to be alright. But I haven't personally gotten to test them out, just because after a while it is more the same with Spider-Man. Because they kind of set the bar high with, that style. And then it's like more the same, maybe different combos here and there. And then maybe mix something else up. Okay, so with the video games, I think we can all agree that most of them suck. And besides Spider-Man and Batman games, there really isn't any good ones. Oh, no, besides the fighting games. And they do pretty good crossovers. Like, I mean, Marvel vs. Capcom has been pretty successful. And recently, DC versus the Mortal Kombat universe, that was pretty good. And it just led into Injustice, which is just, that's not so much crossover unless you count it being Mortal Kombat people.
But, yeah, Injustice is getting decent reviews. It hasn't been getting great reviews. It's getting decent